Hello everyone, my name is MLYP and welcome back to the next episode of All This for $10, an oral history of a dead gay comedy forum better known to most as Something Awful. We're revisiting one of my first ever episodes from when I didn't really know how to talk into a microphone. It's the RIPLine. Hello everyone, welcome back to All This for $10. My name is MLYP. We're talking about a machine that kills children today. This is an episode I did before and I wanted to redo it. It was my second ever episode before I learned how to talk into a microphone. And it didn't come out very well now that I've gone back and re-listened to it. So we're talking about a thread in the Ask and Tell subforum called Tell Me How to Fix This ZIPLine. We're dangerously close to the well, there's your problem zone today, where we are doing a slideshow about a horrifically engineered disaster. It's not really a disaster, but it could have ended disastrously. As always, this episode will have an accompanying guide and video. No content warnings, thankfully. Finally, it's been a bit penisy, been a bit body fluid heavy the last couple episodes, but thankfully there's none. Introductions, I am joined by Josh Boerman. Josh,
That's
how you doing?
me. Hey, how you doing?
So you are 1/3 of Worst Possible World, co-host of the traditional variety of Scrunch. Your website says a theater director, and I've seen you described as the Gandalf of podcasting.
Who called me the Gandalf of podcasting?
It was in the Western Kabuki Discord after you popped up for your episode. Someone went, "Oh, it's Josh. I love Josh. He's like the Gandalf of podcasting."
Oh yeah, was it June? Did June say that? Whatever. No. Look, I guess I'll take it. I don't really fully understand what it means to be the Gandalf of podcasting because to be perfectly honest, I was never a big fan of Lord of the Rings, but I know that Gandalf was good, so I'll take it.
I think it might be related to like a wizard's never late, a wizard's never early. He podcasts precisely when he means to. I'm not sure.
I guess it's just, if I was being called like the Sauron of podcasting, then I'd be a little worried, maybe, but I'll take Gandalf of podcasting, no problem.
Yeah. So, couple of questions before we dive into it. In your own words, who are you? Where did you post?
Well, you sort of summed it up at the beginning there. I direct theater, and that is something I've been getting back more into as of late, along with, of course, doing work on my own podcast. I've been doing, like, online shit for a very, very long time, but I sort of really felt the call of the fucking new media content creator. A few years back, started up the podcast, The Worst of All Possible Worlds, with a couple of my friends, Brian and AJ. Originally, we were actually a YouTube channel, but then what we did was we realized that it was much easier to put out a weekly podcast than it was to put out even a monthly YouTube video. So we pivoted over to that. Now we basically just talk about all sorts of media, and it's really all across the board, all types of media, from movies to theater to video games to Christian children's radio dramas. And then in terms of like the period of media, similarly, we've covered everything from the beginning of the 20th century through to like fucking Mr. Beast. So I really try to bring as broad of a perspective as I can, and that's what we try to do. Obviously, we have our own perspectives that we come at it from, but when it comes to analyzing media and analyzing cultures, that's what we try to do. Now, in terms of where I posted, I was a big poster on the Team 17 forums, which Team 17, those of
They're
course...
the guy that made Worms?
They developed Worms, that's exactly right. There was a really tight-knit forum community there for quite some time, and I'm still in touch with a few of the people who I posted with back then. I think our most famous alumnus is probably the guy who went on to create OpenXCom.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I love learning about niche forums from the past. Like, it's just everything. Back when, we had a society and we weren't siloed off into Discords, which are ephemeral.
we were siloed off like in a different way. You know what I mean? There was something about this thing of having separate virtual spaces for every single thing that you did. And particularly if you are on a web forum that had like a closed board or two just for special people, it really made you feel like you were in on something unique, especially if you were, like a teenager at the time,
Yeah.
which I was.
Yeah. And we've briefly touched on it in our chats. You have been a Something Awful user. I'm not going to make you like dox yourself with a username, but you've used Something Awful on and off.
Yeah, I was not in any way, shape, or form a notable poster on Something Awful. I spent most of my time in TVIV and LF. Those were kind of the two that I was big into at the time. And yeah, Something Awful was always one of those things where I tracked more for just like what was going on online as opposed to anything else. I found most of it to just be pretty overwhelming, honestly. GBS pretty overwhelming. BYOB unbearably annoying. FYAD annoying in a different way. And then, LF was sort of my first exposure to a lot of more left-oriented politics, actually. And it's so funny that in retrospect, all of the fucking weirdos on there, like Paradol X, who were talking about like how Barack Obama is just a puppet for capital, were 100% correct.
And then LF got shut down because they couldn't stop making fun of Grover in his house.
Grover, his house.
Yeah. That's the narrative
also,
I pulled together over like, my digging, yeah.
Vile Rat came in there every once in a while as well, and then of course he got fucking domed in Libya. It was a whole thing.
Yeah, so that is a whole thing. So my new bit, entirely unrelated question, to help loosen my guests up. I've asked questions like, would you eat a Mr. Mime if you're in a Pokemon world, or what board Goku was on? I try and tailor them a little bit. And for you, what's like the worst show, gig, or performance you've ever been to?
Oh man, I don't know that I have a good answer to this one. I can tell you about good shows that I've been to and shows that I'm looking forward to. I'm seeing Devo next week, and I'm hoping that's going to be good. Bad shows, though. I mean, I would say I don't have specific memories necessarily, but I've been to a lot of just subpar clubs and like dance nights, There's always
a lot
something
of mid.
Yeah, more mid than anything else, where it's just like this party isn't really getting going. Okay, here's one that I do remember. I was in Prince Edward Island for a job, and I ended up at this bar out somewhere because I heard there was going to be a karaoke night there, and it turns out that there wasn't a karaoke night there, but what there was like an Afrobeat party because the local university had a lot of students who came over from like particularly like Nigeria and Ghana, I guess, to go to this school, right? And it was one of those things where the DJ he just wasn't quite dialed in because there were a lot of people there. But as everybody knows, if you want to have a good night, you kind of have to get the ladies dancing. And it was just kind of like 3 or 4 dudes on the floor just kind of like awkwardly dancing around. It kind of felt like a goon meetup, actually, insofar as the only people who were truly engaged were people who repelled women. So that was not an intentional gig that I went to, but I would say that it had the texture of an unfortunate evening.
I think my worst one was I went to a Lindsay Sterling concert that was like 2/3 sold out. She's the for those of you who don't know who Lindsay Sterling is, she's the lady that does like violin covers of music while dancing around dressed in outfits. And like 1/3 of that crowd were just sat on the floor for most of the concert.
Oh.
And it was a very like strange vibe.
That's a very odd vibe.
Yeah, very odd vibe. I went with my girlfriend at the time because I was like, I want to go. I was like, look, I'm not a fan of this, but I'll go because I am your boyfriend. And it didn't sell me on Lindsay Sterling. Tell you what.
Yeah, no, the things we do for love.
Things we do for love. We're going back into something awful. Crime of remembering is how I call it. We're remembering something from the past. I want to go on how forums proliferate on something awful. It like general bullshit. The GBS that's the general discussion subforum. Someone would pop up with like hey, tell me about this. Ask me about this. I'm a scientist. People want to like show off their skills. They want to show that I work in this job, ask me questions. And or they had a question that they didn't know how to Google, and you'd get a thread kind of like this originally. Moderators would just be like, get out, temporary ban, a probation, and gas the thread, because that's a general subforum. We don't want you to shit up the thread talking about how you're a science man. So they made the Ask and Tell subforum, which is where we are today. That's where you can just go, ask me about anything. I'm a scientist, or tell me how to fix my house. Or in this case, tell me how to fix this ZIPLine.
Right. And the thing about AT threads is that because there are so many people who had this desire to contribute, even if they didn't really have subject matter expertise, there would be, and also because people wanted to be helpful, right?
Yeah.
They wanted to go along with whatever the proposed thing was. You would often just end up with absolutely insane and incorrect information. Generally speaking, I would argue these threads contained more inaccurate information than accurate information.
And as we're going to kind of find out today, also just straight up trolling, which is my favorite kind of response to an Ask and Tell thread. So it's March 20th, 2010. I like to ground ourselves with the passage of time, because the passage of time no longer carries meaning since the spicy cough incident. We were 3 days away from Obama signing the Affordable Care Act into law, just to like really ground it where we're going. Spirit was like dangerously close to the sand trap on Mars that would kill it. And Transformers Revenge of the Fallen had just won big at the 30th Golden Raspberry Awards. So 15 odd years in the past now, we're going back. And it's March 20th. Dexter Stratton, the OP, no longer says what it originally says. It now just says, this is a thread about zip lines, but someone did something really ugly. Sorry, we're closed.
Yeah, this is just really bad behavior. To go back into a thread and edit all of the posts so that there is no information in there anymore. Thankfully, a lot of the original text from this thread was successfully captured and can be found elsewhere. But I went into the gold mine, or well, it's actually not in the gold mine. It's just in the archives to try to reread this thread. And I was like, oh shit, none of it's here anymore.
No, I had to dig around through the FYAD thread. I've had to dig in through various different versions that it's been archived through the Wayback Machine and other off-site forums talking about it, just to piece together the whole story. So yeah, it does read like this thread's about ziplines. Someone did something really ugly. Sorry, we're closed. It's likely he was doxxed. So one of the photos was a temporary anchor of the compound bungee system that they'd put together. And this was actually put on a 1986 Ford Bronco. The anchor was tied off to the trailer hitch, and someone ran the license plate, found out what state they were in, and the fact it was registered to the camp, called the police, and the quote that they said the police was, "They're creating a child-killing machine."
That's so funny. This is classic goon behavior, too.
Yes.
To just be like, I need to fix this problem right now, and just ruining everybody else's fun.
So Dexter did pop up a couple of years ago. He was talking to another podcast host of the only other Something Awful specific podcast that some people will be aware of. I've never really bring them up on my show at all, because it invites drama because of their reputation, and I don't really interact with them, but I'm more than happy to credit them that they managed to get an interview with Dexter to put this piece together for the sake of preservation. Like, under no circumstances do you have to hand it to ISIS level of handing it to him, but I will be like, hey, they managed to get him out of hiding and get some of these quotes, because it actually really illuminated quite a lot of stuff around the background of the camp and exactly how much money he was spent. Every story that you've seen out there actually drastically undershoots how much we're going to be spending on this bad boy today.
Now, you've covered the Doom bathroom on this podcast, right? I feel like a similar situation where this guy did a series of incredibly stupid things, and then a few people went way, way, way too far and got the thing closed down before it could get really, really funny.
Well, the Doom bathroom did become really funny because he flamed out talking about biotruths and the fact that I'm making this bathroom for women, and then he just got yelled at for about 5 pages, and then he disappeared for a year and then came back with the finished product.
Oh, that's right. He came back. Yes. And that was a thing of beauty.
And then I realized when I was researching for the episode that he is a Cybertruck owner.
Wonderful. Well, that tracks. You've played the WAD, right?
Yeah, I played the Doom WAD.
Hell yeah.
I'm friends with the guy that made the WAD. His
Wonderful.
name's Dieting Hippo. He is yeah, I had a mini interview with him for the episode. Great guy all around. Him Doom bathroom guy, not. I've found his other fucked up bathroom and his fucked up bedroom. He's got a bathroom.
Sorry, there's another bathroom?
Yeah, it's blue and it's for the fellas.
No.
I will show it to you afterwards.
My God.
And I will make sure there's a link to the guide for people who want to see it's like a smaller, darker blue version of the Doom bathroom. It was his first attempt, yeah. And there's also his fucked up bedroom, and yeah, it's that basically imagine the whole house looks like the Doom bathroom, just with different color palettes for the different rooms.
I'm picturing it in my head, and it is not pretty.
No. So, luckily, the internet never forgets. And I say the internet never forgets with a kinda bracket behind it. Some of the stuff is gone forever. I don't think we're ever going to have all of the imagery. I've gotten most of it, which is, thank God, because it's been preserved in multiple different places. What could be salvaged of the OP is when they started planning, they asked for an engineer, and they were told there wasn't any money. The director wanted a zipline and asked them to build one in a very specific area. And they just built it. They went, fuck it, let's build this really hyper-engineered zipline. It was supposed to have 4 ziplines. And while they were building it, they were saying, man, I sure wonder how this thing's supposed to stop. And no one was surprised when the first weight slammed into the pole, and by then all the money for the project had been spent. So let's take a look at the zipline, shall we? If you are looking at the follow-along guide, the slide will just say, let's take a look at the RIPLine, and we're at follow-along guide number 1. If you're on Patreon, there is a video. It'll be on YouTube at some point, like it's a week or so afterwards. So this thing is so well built. The parts that I'm like looking at for these, it's like, even just like, you'd be like, oh yeah, an engineer definitely helps. Like, this is a fantastic piece of building work. Like, it's very well made.
I'm not an engineer, but I will say, looking at it, that the supports seem solid. There's a lot of bracketing to kind of provide additional support to the platform up top, and it's handsomely appointed, I would say. You've got guy wires off of it to kind of stabilize it from the backside, and then of course you've got the wires themselves for the zipline, which, and this is something that I learned, descend a vertical drop that is almost as high as the Washington Monument in D.C.
We've got that later on. That would be from the Dan Olsen thread, like the infamous Dan Olsen Twitter thread. Right. That measurement is correct. It's 153 feet, but the Washington Monument's not. They've used the wrong monument on that one, and I've actually got a correct diagram. It is it's still just as funny. If you stood next to the Statue of Liberty's feet,
okay,
the ideal drop. The launch tower would be at the flame on her torch that she's
wonderful.
holding.
Okay, that's helpful, because
that's almost as funny as, to be honest.
To me personally, being a New Yorker, I think it's even better that it's the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, and it's like, this thing's beautiful. This thing's beautifully built. So we've. This is my favorite photo. I think someone's photoshopped that soldier-looking person in the front of this image, but it does look like a bit of a mass grave aesthetic we've got going on here. I think this might actually just be a mass grave photo photoshopped on top. I might fix this in post.
It looks like it. It does look, though, like maybe this would have been a platform where they just kept hanging people and then taking them and putting the bodies away or something.
Yeah. Now I'm looking at it a little closely. I'm like, I might find a different version of this photo. The test run, they do have photos of the test run. That is a sack of potatoes.
Seen this one.
That is a whole sack of potatoes being launched off the top. And you see the beautiful Washington State vista behind it.
Oh God, the Cascades are so beautiful, aren't they?
I know the only things that I know is, and I will kind of go into details on what happened to the camp, is it's in Washington State near a hydroelectric plant.
Okay.
Other than that, there's no records of where this thing is. That's a photo of the sack of potatoes about to meet its doom. It's about to hit a pole. Like, there's just so much compression and tension on that thing, and it swung over the waist-high barrier and just hit the other pole. And from his own recollection, it like it explodes. The sack of potatoes just like goes into mush.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not a physicist. I've always been very bad at physics, but I understand the basic calculations around how force works. So, like, when you put that much acceleration on an object, yeah, no, that would be sufficient. Once you're releasing that energy at the end, when you hit the post, of course, it's going to cause the sack of potatoes to explode.
It's just the potential energy of 60 miles an hour suddenly coming to a hard surface of a giant tree trunk.
Exactly.
The direct quote from him is, "It hit the pole at the bottom so hard, the shock traveled back up the upper platform and shook it so hard that we all got low to keep from falling off." So that's the 150 odd feet away. Like, it's a 400-foot zip line with a 150-foot drop.
Because
bad.
all of that energy gets transferred back through the zip line cable.
Through the zip line, yeah. Correct. How did we get here? How did this thing get built? As previously mentioned, a lot of money, not a lot of engineering. Dexter worked at a summer camp. In 2009, the director wanted him to build a zip line. He was like one of the camp counselors, sort of like arranging stuff. And the director had been to a camp with an 800-foot long zip line. And he wanted one. He wanted 4 parallel 800-foot zip lines, actually. The director
what's better than one 800-foot zip line?
4 of them, yeah.
Yeah.
The director, great vision guy, great at getting donations. So before you know it, $20,000 in cash, lumber, and cable had been donated. They had a ropes course, so the ropes course manager was in charge of the project. So the ropes course manager, Dexter, and the facilities manager oversaw the project with summer staff filling in labor. And the real thing is that this forums user, Kalispera, says here is like, you were instructed to build a high-speed child throwing machine, but told no engineers. And so without professional consultation, you proceeded to build it and then discover that the contraption would just jellify a child-sized object. Like, you have now come to the forums looking for advice on how to
the somethingawful.com forums. That's what blows my mind. It's not just that they did it. It's that after doing it, this guy was like, you know where I think I could find some expertise?
Somethingawful.com, a bastion of help in 2010. On his first day of work, they showed him the location, and he said, "How are you going to stop it?" The answer was, "We'll figure it out." This conversation repeated every time someone new came to the project site. And personally, I would have tried to, get some math done beforehand. One problem is the obvious choice was to go to the river, and so people could, drop off into the water. I have a couple of problems with that, having fallen off of, a diving platform into the water. Water is hard.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And I can't imagine what hitting water at 60 miles an hour is like, let alone, I've fallen off a diving platform and accidentally belly flopped. And it's
no,
like, that
exactly.
hurt.
I mean, are they even allowed to have, I remember, going to summer camp and having one of those big inflatable blobs. Did you ever do one of those?
Yes, like a big inflatable blob in the water that you could get launched off of.
Exactly, and then one guy dives off the platform, hits the thing, you fly off the other end. I mean, particularly if there is a major difference in mass between you and there's a much bigger kid jumping on the other side of the thing, you can get fucking launched, and that shit can hurt.
Yeah, so the problem they had was there were 250 kilovolt power lines running parallel to the river from the nearby hydroelectric dam that I mentioned. So obviously a no-go. Running parallel to the water was a bad idea because power could jump to the zip line. 250 kilovolts has a propensity to jump a little bit. So occasionally, if they were too close, the power could have actually jumped over to the zip line and fried a kid. So you'd have had some really bad times.
Yeah, that seems like a liability risk.
The only real cleared space they had was the inner tube run, and I'm not a snow guy. I'm from an island nation that has a very temperate climate. We have a little bit of snow, mostly in the mountains, but I've never really done inner tubing. Have you ever been to a place with some inner tubing?
Oh yeah. So I said I'm a New Yorker, which is true, but I also grew up in the great state of Michigan. And inner tubing, both on water and on snow, is something that I grew up doing.
So this stuff doesn't get its speed from moseying down a hill at a leisurely pace.
No, those things move.
So putting a zipline at the top and a bottom of a inner tube run, probably not going to end well. So now we get to talk math. You said you're not a math guy.
Not really. Not a math guy, not a physics guy.
So Dexter sent the test bag down. Some say it's a sandbag. From what I've gathered, it's a potato sack. It's expecting like a leisurely coast to a halt. I've gone on zip lines before, right? Maybe you'll like thud on a tire if you're a hefty child like I was, and then you'll swing back up a little bit and then back again to a stop. The test sandbag / potato sack explodes. It's just a shower of debris. Estimates, running the math, put it about 65 miles an hour by the time it hits the receiving platform. The final dimensions were 761 lateral feet between the two poles supporting the cable and 143 feet of drop with an average of 19% grade.
Right.
Of a
but that, of
descent.
course, is an average because it's a zip line, so it's a parabola. You actually go down steeper toward the beginning.
Yeah, so the biggest drop is in the first 600 feet and then raises back up to the platform. So some speed is scrubbed. Someone did the math. Dexter himself says they did the math of 143 feet, and it's math, gravity, time, blah, blah, blah. 95 FPS or 65 miles an hour. So we know that from the thread, and Dexter wants to thank Doddery Meerkat for this. And I'll keep saying Doddery Meerkat whenever math turns up because it's in my brain now because everyone else talks about it. So they decided that 15 miles an hour might be a little more sane. So they plugged that in, solved for it, came up at the ideal drop is 7.5 feet. So they overshot the optimal height of the drop by 19 times.
That is your total vertical drop over the course of that length is 7.5 feet.
That's what you should have gone for, yes.
So roughly the height of one Yao Ming.
Yes. Instead of huge amount. The 143-foot drop. Which is 19 Yao Mings stacked on top of each other. A plea from the OP. So it works out our almost 19-degree slope. Most zip lines do not go over 10. I'm hoping someone in this 100,000 pool of generally smart people might have dealt with an issue like this before and can throw me an answer. There's been 200,000 registered accounts on something awful. There's been a few engineers come through in the time. The initial reactions is like, are you fucking serious, homie? 143-foot drop? And it is, every single person on this front page is either laughing at him or going, get fucking insurance and a lawyer on the phone now.
Yes.
You fucked up. I was expecting a cheap backyard setup.
Well, something too about that vertical drop, right? And just thinking about it, it makes sense that it was originally a sort of a tubing track because although tubes will move at a pretty decent speed, you still do have the friction of the tube against the snow to slow you down. Yeah. Whereas with a zipline, you hardly have any friction at all.
Yeah. This is Internet Jack here kind of sums it up. You do not re-engineer this or tool this. You have built a death ride. You can't tone this down. You tear it down. Any other option is inviting yourself to lawsuit hell. It looks great. We've kind of established this thing looks magnificent. It was designed for murder speed. You can't really modify it. You need to start from the get-go of the design. You can't. It's like me and Roller Coaster Tycoon building a roller coaster without an idea of what's going on.
Roller Coaster 3 looks too intense for me.
And then going back in and going I'm going to delete these 3 and just slowly regrade them slightly. It's you can't do that in real life.
Right.
Unfortunately. That's unfortunately quitter talk for Dexter. I guess, do you have any kind of initial thoughts on how you might want to make this safe? You can't tear either of them down, though.
I mean, me personally?
Yes.
I would just retool it into something completely different. I'd turn it into an archery tower or something.
Yeah, my favorite is just turn it into, I'd just tell the kids, hey, we're going to just start throwing things off here. We're going to load the truck up with stuff. The camp counselor's going to go to the top. He's going to walkie-talkie when something's been sent. We're going to stand 50 feet up the hill and watch it explode.
Or I don't know, maybe a stargazing platform. It's nice and high.
Nice.
It clears the trees.
Actually, yeah, a nice little teach kids how to read distances off the top one. You've got a long piece because you'll know all the distances, but you just teach them how to do it.
Bring them bring a sextant along with you.
It's you could dig the valley out a bit more and flood it, make it a mudslide. Get a small parachute, maybe, to slow the kids down, which is one of my favorites.
Also, these people are serious. That's what I think is so fucking funny about it.
Yeah.
I am reasonably certain that this person who is saying, "Hey, you know what? If we just got some parachutes on it, it would probably work." And I think this person is really trying to help.
They've given him a link and everything to competitive edge products. I'm assuming .com. It's like, it's a ZIPLine, not a particle accelerator, buddy. Maybe take a hint out of Airborne School where you just have 4 kids waiting at the end. 5 if it's a chubby kid. Like counterweights, auto braking, maybe. Like look, said cool ham radio antenna. Some other suggestions like giant ball pit at the end. Something squashable, like more old tires. There is more, but add more tires.
That's also definitely an attempt at trying to be actually helpful. Like just cushion it more at the end.
Yeah. There is suggestions for like off harness braking. And on harness braking as well. So like maybe get the kid to drag big rock on the ground to slow them down. More slack in the line is one of my favorite suggestions.
Not how that works.
If you add more slack, you get a way faster drop at the start. But if you're too fat as a child, you'll hit the ground. And if you're too small, you'll just get you won't get enough speed to reach the end. So you just end up hanging over the abyss.
Well, and also because there is more slack at the beginning, that means you're going to accelerate faster, which actually makes it potentially more dangerous in certain ways, particularly what would happen when you swing when you hit the, these are not good ideas.
Yeah. This is a girl called Daisy. Daisy and her family live in Los Pinos in Colombia. The only school is located in another town near the village. They can either do a 2-hour hike or take a high wire zip line that goes across a large ravine, and that's Daisy going to school, breaking with a piece of wood. And in that sack is her younger brother.
This is honestly pretty fucking sick.
That's pretty fucking baller.
If you're not looking at the visualization here, yeah, she's sort of tucked in to this little sack on a zip line. And she just is extending one arm, which has a manual brake on it, I guess, which she can use to drag along the line to slow down her speed. Yeah, it's just a branch.
Yeah. So it's either a 2-hour hike for Daisy to go to school, or she can take the sickest fucking commute across the ravine with her brother in a sack. It's we could take a hint from Daisy and trust all the kids to do it. Some tennis balls, for example. We see them here.
I can't believe they actually built this. Somebody suggested this in the thread. I saw that. Somebody was like, well, what if you just put some stuff at the line and then it would slow? They actually fucking tried this. This is unbelievable.
This rules, dude. Yeah, some tennis balls. Here's a close-up of it.
Oh my God.
How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 tennis balls. 6 of them are already compressed to shit.
Yeah, and then what appears to be maybe a garage door spring or something, and then a tire.
Yeah, they had this idea of a non-load-bearing cable to hold the pulley that they could snap off to help them slow down, and I don't get the logic behind that. But
no, that doesn't make sense.
They try. My favorite suggestion is just have the bad kids ride it.
Yeah.
Actually, just really commit to the bit. Naturally, Dexter hates all of these. And one of the posts that he has is, I'll post pictures of the new and improved plan so you armchair lawyers can tell me how stupid I still am and how the lawsuit storm clouds are swirling over my head. And this is peak goon.
Oh my God, this is my absolute favorite type of something awful post, where it's somebody who is so wrong and knows that they're wrong, but they can't handle the cognitive dissonance, so they double and triple down on how wrong everybody else is.
Many such cases. Doom Bathroom Guy goes through the same thing. It's you can't all be telling me I'm wrong. I must be right. So a query, can you just do this? Can you really just decide, are there permits and inspectors? Surely there is permits and inspectors for this stuff. Turns out you can just do this. Dexter says, there's no governing body over challenge courses or zip lines. There's the ACCT, which issues a list of guidelines, but will not certify. They had the head of the Public Utilities District, or the PUD, It's public utility something. Come out and take a look at our cables and poles. So he said everything we built was better than what his crew had done to string the high tension 250,000 volt lines that came from the hydroelectric dam. So we felt pretty good about that.
Okay, do you think that he told this guy what it was for? Because
Apparently he got a bit of help, yeah, but I hope he
don't know. I can certainly see that. Like, it's true. The tower itself looks to be
Yeah.
well built. The question is what it's being used for.
If I was to like just using it to send logging equipment down, like logging
Right.
debris, great, excellent. For a child, though, this is a child murder. And thus we go to FYAD.
Of course.
FYAD, also known as Fuck You and Die. What is FYAD?
Oh, FYAD is the cool place to hang out. You can find most of the cool people there. And FYAD, you can just chill and do whatever and totally relax. Take it easy is the FYAD model, for example. That's how laid back it is there. Show up if you want to have a good time. Another good reason to show up is if you want to hang out with friends. Do I have that whole thing memorized? Maybe.
It is, however, kind of wrong. FYAD stands for Fuck You and Die. It is the only place where flame wars are semi-accepted. To some, it is a great place for friends. It is a great place you can come hang out. To others, it's cliques, idiocy. It's a cesspit of bad catchphrases. GBS, Arstel, all of the forum kind of quarrel with FYAD a lot. They still do to these days. Most of FYAD's content's like bannable in GBS. GBS posters are laughed at a FYAD because they're not funny. There's an uneasy truth. FYAD will occasionally reach out and find other parts of the forum to make fun of, and they've noticed the thread. Like, they post, Goons are stupid as hell is the name of their thread, and it's like, really like, Jesus Christ, like, this guy built a giant zipline, didn't consult a single engineer. And Casual Mail XL fans, like, kind of sums it up as like, if someone told me that and sent it to me via DM, I would not click a link so, like, more faster than that. I'd be like, fuck it, let's go. Like, the zipline ends at the truck, but the ride doesn't end at the truck. From there, the kids are driven to the set of American Gladiators, where they must fight Blaze Bro, Nitro, Wild Dog, all of whom have been given permission to use the wrestling moves on the children.
This is honestly not that substantively different from some of the recommendations that Goons are making in earnest in GBS.
No, it's not. Basically, they just start laughing at the guy. FYAD's actually one of the only places where some of these images are preserved. Thankfully, like, they actually did some internet preservation for me. They really hone in on the mass grave aesthetic, like we kind of touched on that briefly. Like, you know, ZIPLine mark fry. The ZIPLine will make you free. And it does, like, they used heavy earth-moving equipment to just dig, like, this gouge out of the hillside and made
it would be fun to ski down that, I will say. But that's not what they're intending to do here.
Now that I'm looking at it and we've gone over the inner tubing, do you think this made the inner tubing worse? Or better?
Probably better. Probably better because it's nice and smooth faster now. Definitely faster. Definitely faster.
Yeah. And like the shit post start, like they start writing letters from the perspective of the kids. And it's like, dear Dad, for some reason the camp guys wanted me to write a letter to you before I went on the zipline thing. They said just in case. Anyway, it looks pretty scary, but and then a line just fucking going off to the side. Like they just start mocking the shit out of the guy. So we're in a lot of zones in this episode. So Josh, I'd like to welcome you to the Kill James Bond zone.
I like that you're welcoming me to podcasts that I'm directly adjacent to.
Yes, I'm welcoming you to other podcasts that you've been on and guested on and like your other hosts are parts of. I just want to acknowledge that we're going into the Kill James Bond zone because FYAD starts naming mock James Bond films after the zipline. Like Zip and Let Die.
Oh, nice.
40 miles an hour is not enough. Children aren't forever. You only zip once. Groundraker. Tomorrow never comes. Never say slower again. On your progeny's cemetery service. It's like, this is one of my favorite bits, is that it's like, yeah, a view to a kill, wait. It's like, it's great. It's like, well, Mr. Bond, I expect you to zip. It's honestly my favorite part. They follow him around for a little bit.
Broken finger? Is this anything? Nah, fuck it. No. Keep going.
They follow him around for a little bit. There's a thread in PYF, post your favorites, and it's called PYF thing to do outside, and Dexter posts crash things. sail things. And so a FYAD member follows him into the thread, quotes him, but edits the quote to read, crash things like children into the mountainside.
That reads kind of like a haiku.
You could. Just one more sentence, I think, and we could almost get there.
Yeah.
It's they basically, I don't know where the doxing came from. I don't want to like tar FYAD with a brush. But someone at some point reaches out to him. FYAD kind of noticed, oh, he's deleted everything.
Well, and
everything kind of.
I also feel like whoever it was who did like the doxing or whatever would not have been somebody who was FYAD. It would have, like, that is GBS type behavior. You know what I mean?
They're killing children. Call the cops.
Exactly.
So this is the diagram that we spoke about a little earlier.
Right.
It's so she's actually moved to Blue Sky as well. It's bexy.bluesky.social. And project, let's make a zipline. So a hill and launch tower, it's 183 feet from the ground. And by the ground, we mean like where the receiving tower is to the top of the hill, top of the launch tower. There is a 143-foot drop across basically it's a 175-foot gap. They got the math wrong. Like the Washington Monument's much taller than 169 feet. But the optimal receiving tower, as you can see on the blue, is a very tall, very tall tower.
The Washington Monument is 500 feet tall. I just looked that up. That, as you said, much taller.
But I did Photoshop in the Statue of Liberty just to put it into perspective. So from like her base, not like the big brown, but like just the brass green part of her is about 151 feet.
So wonderful. I mean, speaking, like, I can go and look at her any day that I want. And so that really helps me. The next time I go out and see the Statue of Liberty when I'm riding on the F train or whatever, I'm just going to think of this zip line.
I had a great time. When I was in New York, I jumped on the big free ferry and went across I don't know, we had a burger on the other side, but the whole time I was like, hey, there's the Statue of Liberty. She's tall.
You took the Staten Island ferry, you mean?
Yeah, we went to Staten Island and had a hot dog, I think.
Yeah,
I mean, correctly. It's been a while.
Honestly, like, going back and forth on the Staten Island ferry can be a day in and of itself. They serve food and beer on the ferry, and it's free, so you can just keep going back and forth as long as you want.
Excellent time. It was great. Like, it was fun. It was free. As a tourist who was there for like 4 days, I was like, I want to go and look at the Statue of Liberty, but I don't want to pay money to go to the Statue of Liberty.
No, fuck that. Don't pay to go to Liberty Island. Don't pay to go up in it. Just take the Staten Island ferry. It's one of the most fun things you can do.
And you go pretty close.
Yep.
And then you'd be like, hey, that's the Statue of Liberty. I've done my tourism thing. And then I went to like MoMA and watched a New Japan Pro Wrestling show in Times Square.
Hell yeah. Yeah, the only other
day.
Like pro tip I would have for tourists who want to take a ferry in New York would be to take the ferry to Governor's Island. That costs like $3 or $4, but that's extremely worth it. And you also get to see the Statue of Liberty from that ferry. So there you go.
So fundamentally, I think unfixable. This is a fundamentally fucked problem. Like we've looked at it every possible way. We've looked at parachutes. We've looked at zip lines. Naturally, that means more money spent. So the camp comes up with an additional $50,000.
Yes, dude. Yes.
So all up, $70,000. There's some earnest diagrams. Here's the problem with the slack. I love this diagram
so much.
I love shitty MS Paint diagrams that people would like more slack, right? So force equals mass times acceleration. And if you have too much slack and the child's a little on the chunky end of the spectrum, they will just smash into the receiving tower because there's too much slack. So not really a thing. What if we make it cooler?
I love this. This is peak right here. This is obviously a joke, but yeah, we've got all sorts of things around, suggestions for greasing the cables, having a haunted Wild West themed town and carnival, smoke machines, a pool with alligators, etc.
Accompanying slip and slide?
Yes. Which actually
kid on a dirt bike doing a ramp over the zip line, having some like giant slingshots for shooting vegetables and slime at the riders. Like, what if we make it way cooler? Like something out of Most Extreme Challenge.
What I really like about the positioning of the slingshots too is that you could potentially hit the kids on the dirt bike ramping over the zip line using those slingshots. So like you'd have multiple targets to aim at. These are good ideas.
This is like, just turn it into a Takeshi's Castle bit.
Yeah.
Like straight up. Unfortunately, this bankrupts the whole camp.
What?
Yeah. The camp. So this was in 2010, right? So we've just come off the financial crisis, 2008 financial crisis, and they spent 70 grand. Dexter kind of justifies it, like they had to come up with a solution, otherwise, so we hadn't wasted that money. So more bad money after bad. And yeah, the housing crisis caught up to them in 2010.
Huh.
Registrations dropped in the spring of that year, so people would have in 2008 already like prepaid for 2009
Right.
potentially, but in 2010 in the spring, you've had a year of real bad financial stuff. So registrations are no longer there. So he wasn't going to be able to pay salaries. So he laid several people off. Dexter was actually just laid off while he wasn't even there, off on like winter leave. So it made it easier to not even have to look him in the eye. And yeah, the director said he flew a little too close to the sun and spent all his money on a non-functioning zipline.
I mean, I will say, $70,000, obviously, that's too much money, but it's probably not the difference between solvency and insolvency. Like, there were probably other problems going
No.
on with this camp. And really, when you think about it, the fact that they would be willing to authorize an additional $50,000 of money trying to get this thing to work, I imagine that there were other budgeting decisions that they made which were similarly ill thought through, shall we say.
I mean, what, 70 grand is what, 1.5 person's salary for a whole year? I'm not going to,
Right.
like, even assuming you're paying 2 people 35 grand for part-time work at a summer camp as an administrator. They're not like they're working 6 months of the year or something. That's still not enough to keep you afloat, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a significant amount of money for sure, but it stands to reason that this camp probably wasn't taking good care of its finances more broadly, I would imagine.
I'm not going to assume most summer camps are the most financially stable
No, I don't think so.
of institute anyway. So what about Dexter? Dexter deletes everything
Right.
after the doxing incident. His interview says he found a job, his dream job, shortly afterwards that he's still in.
Oh, good for him.
So he's doing well for himself. What happens to the RIPLine? They ended up back and forth on a lot of potential options. They had a kind of mitigating solution. They built a 200-foot 4-lane zip line from the bottom platform back towards the hill. So
Oh, okay.
they basically built a smaller receiving platform kind of midway up the hill. So it's really fun. Like it's only 200 feet. The kids really enjoy it. Sometimes they look uphill and ask what the other platform is for.
It's the
And it's like,
observation deck.
I would immediately be like, okay, kid, this is where we go and take the stargazing telescope up to
Yeah,
at
yeah,
night. God bless the RIPLine, the machine to kill children. Long may it live in our hearts.
pouring one out.
Pouring one out. We're wrapping up, which is we get to the pluggable section. What do you got going on, Josh?
Well, as I've mentioned, I am a co-host of a podcast called The Worst of All Possible Worlds. We do media analysis and discussion. So if you like media, any kind of media at all, you should check us out. Worstpossible.world is our website. We also have a Patreon which is patreon.com/worstofall. We've had a lot of folks on the show. We like to get guests on. We just had Caleb from Western Kabuki on. We had a lot of fun, might not be the most accurate thing. It was actually a pretty heavy episode, but we talked about the guy is in Seattle who stole a plane, took it off, and then ended up getting lionized by Nazis. Really strange story, but a really good episode. And yeah, just like in general, any kind of media that you can imagine, we've probably talked about it. So I would just say go take a look at our feed until you find a piece of subject matter that is interesting to you. Have a listen, see if our show's for you. I think you'll find something to like.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate
Yeah.
it. For everyone else, like if you listen to my podcast, you probably know where you can find me. I have my website, 10bucks.neocities.org. It will remind you Web 1.0 is bad. As of recording, this one's coming out in a couple of weeks after recording. I have a slammed full of schedule because I'm kind of recording quite a bit far in advance because my new day job is about to get very busy. So I'm like, let's just rack up a bunch of episodes. But I've just dropped a Patreon episode talking about libertarians and the book that Goons crowd wrote to talk about seasteading. So that's actually just come out for me. And this video is also going to be available on Patreon early. All my links and all of Josh's links will be in the description. Josh, you want to end us out by just reading this one last line for us? I want everyone to not forget that
internet makes you stupid.